The complex legacy of seppuku: honor, ritual, and cultural impact. Dawn breaks over medieval Japan. A samurai kneels in silence, dressed in immaculate white robes. Before him lies a short sword wrapped in white paper. The atmosphere is thick with tension as he prepares for his final act, a ritual that has captured the imagination of the Western world for centuries, yet remains deeply misunderstood. In 1703, on a cold winter morning, 46 samurai faced this exact moment. They had just completed their revenge against the man who had forced their master to commit seppuku 2 years earlier. Now, having restored their lord's honor, they too would follow the ancient code. This mass ritual suicide would later become known as one of Japan's most celebrated tales of loyalty, the story of the 47 Ronin. But what drives a warrior to choose such a devastating end? In modern America, suicide is seen as an act of desperation or mental anguish. Yet in feudal Japan, seppuku, often mistakenly called harakiri in the West, represented something profoundly different: the ultimate expression of honor, courage, and control over one's destiny. The ritual itself is far more complex than most Westerners imagine. It's not merely an act of self-destruction, but a carefully choreographed ceremony with centuries of tradition behind it. Every movement, every object, every participant has deep symbolic meaning. The white robes represent purity and the acceptance of death. The carefully wrapped sword speaks to the samurai's sacred relationship with his weapons. Even the direction the warrior faces, usually north, carries spiritual significance. Picture this. A warrior kneels in the seiza position, his knees pressed against tatami mats. Behind him stands a trusted friend or respected warrior, the kaishaku, or second. This person isn't just a witness. They play a crucial role in ensuring the samurai's death is swift and dignified. The relationship between these two individuals represents one of the most solemn bonds in samurai culture. The origins of seppuku trace back to Japan's late Heian period, around the 12th century. The first recorded instance tells of Minamoto no Yorimasa, a warrior who, facing defeat at the Battle of Uji in 1180, chose to die by his own hand rather than fall to his enemies. However, it wasn't until the Kamakura period, 1185 to 1333, that seppuku became a codified institution among the samurai class. What many don't realize is that seppuku wasn't always voluntary. By the Edo period, 1603 to 1867, it had evolved into an officially sanctioned form of capital punishment for samurai who had committed serious offenses. This judicial seppuku, known as tsumebara, carried its own specific protocols and ceremonies, distinct from voluntary seppuku, jisei. The actual physical act of seppuku is something that Hollywood often gets wrong. The ritual involves a specific cut across the abdomen, from left to right, followed by a slight upward cut. The location is crucial. The samurai believes the stomach houses the soul and the source of human emotions. By cutting open his abdomen, he is literally exposing his soul to the world, proving he has nothing to hide and his motives are pure. But why the stomach? In Japanese traditional belief, the abdomen, specifically the area called hara, is considered the seat of the human soul and the source of all human emotions. This isn't just poetic symbolism. It reflects a fundamental difference in how Japanese culture historically viewed the relationship between mind, body, and spirit. While Western tradition places emphasis on the heart or the brain as the center of human existence, Japanese culture has long regarded the hara as the true center of being. The preparation for seppuku was as important as the act itself. A samurai would often compose a death poem, jisei, in his final hours, a tradition that produced some of Japan's most moving poetry. These weren't merely farewell notes. They were considered the purest possible expression of a warrior's inner thoughts, written at the moment when all worldly concerns had fallen away. Consider the death poem of Kuroki Hiroshi, a young samurai who committed seppuku in 1945. The pale moon lights my way. No more to see this world of ours. My soul sets sail today. The choice of the short sword, or tanto, used in the ceremony was also deeply significant. Unlike the katana, which was used for combat, The tanto used for seppuku was often a treasured family heirloom, passed down through generations. Some of these blades had names and histories spanning centuries, and their use in the ritual added another layer of significance to the ceremony. The role of the kaishaku II was perhaps one of the most psychologically demanding positions in all of samurai culture. Imagine being asked to end the life of a close friend or respected colleague, knowing that any mistake could result in a dishonorable death. The kaishaku had to possess not only exceptional swordsmanship, but also the mental fortitude to perform this final act of mercy perfectly. One of the most famous examples of this sacred duty comes from the story of General Marisuke Nogi, who served as Emperor Meiji's most trusted military commander. Following the emperor's death in 1912, Nogi chose to follow his lord in death through junshi ritual suicide to follow one's master. His wife, Shizuko, committed suicide alongside him. The general's kaishaku was his own son-in-law, a man who had to bear the weight of this responsibility for the rest of his life. The preparation for seppuku followed strict protocols that would seem alien to modern sensibilities. The chosen location was typically a quiet, clean place, often a temple or private residence. The floor would be covered with white cloth, symbolizing purity and the transition to the afterlife. A small table would be set before the samurai, bearing specific ritual items, the tanto wrapped in paper, a stand for the death poem if one was written, and sometimes a small cup of sake. The timing was also crucial. Many chose to perform the ritual at dawn, symbolizing renewal and transformation. The samurai would bathe thoroughly and dress in white robes, often the same style worn at a funeral. This was no coincidence. The samurai was, in effect, preparing for his own funeral while still alive. But not all seppuku was performed in such controlled circumstances. Battlefield seppuku, known as oibara, was a drastically different affair. When defeat was inevitable, samurai would often choose this quick form of ritual suicide rather than face capture. One of the most dramatic examples occurred during the Boshin War, 1868 to 1869, when dozens of Aizu domain samurai committed oibara as their castle fell to imperial forces. The psychological preparation for seppuku was equally important as the physical arrangements. Samurai were trained from an early age to view death not as something to be feared, but as an ever-present reality to be accepted and, if necessary, embraced with dignity. This mindset was cultivated through intense meditation practices, study of Zen Buddhism, and regular contemplation of death. This brings us to one of the most misunderstood aspects of seppuku, its relationship with shame and honor. In Western media, seppuku is often portrayed simply as a way to save face after failure or disgrace. This is a superficial understanding that misses the deeper philosophical and spiritual dimensions of the practice. Consider the case of Watanabe Kazan, a renowned painter and scholar of the late Edo period. In 1841, he was accused of promoting Western ideas through his writings, a serious crime at the time. Rather than recant his beliefs or face imprisonment, Watanabe chose seppuku. His death poem speaks not of shame, but of unwavering conviction. Though my body may die, my spirit stands unbroken. Like the morning sun, this wasn't an act of escape from shame, but rather an assertion of personal honor and intellectual integrity. Through seppuku, Watanabe transformed what could have been seen as a criminal's death into a profound statement of principle. The actual physical process of seppuku required extraordinary courage and self-control. The cut itself, called kappuku, had to be performed in a specific way, a deep horizontal cut from left to right across the abdomen, followed by a slight upward cut. Some accounts mention a third cut, though this was rare. The pain would have been excruciating, yet samurai were expected to maintain their composure throughout. This is where the kaishaku's role became crucial. The second would watch carefully for the moment when the initial cut was complete, then perform the daki kubi, a precise cut that would partially decapitate the samurai, leaving a small strip of skin at the front of the neck. This particular detail was important. Complete decapitation was considered crude and dishonorable in this context. But perhaps most fascinating is how the practice of seppuku influenced and was influenced by Japan's complex system of social obligations and honorable behavior. The concept of giri, duty or obligation, played a central role. A samurai might commit seppuku not only to take responsibility for failure or wrongdoing, but also to protest against an unjust order or to make a statement about social or political conditions. The final decades of Japan's feudal era saw seppuku take on new significance as Japan confronted the modern world. The arrival of Commodore Perry's black ships in 1853 triggered a period of intense cultural upheaval, during which many samurai found themselves torn between tradition and modernization. During this tumultuous period, several high-profile cases of seppuku captured the attention of Western observers, leading to some of the first detailed Western accounts of the ritual. One such case was witnessed by British diplomat Algernon Bertram Freeman Mitford in 1868. He documented the seppuku of a samurai named Taki Zenzaburo, who had been condemned for ordering the firing on foreign settlements in Kobe. Freeman Mitford's account remains one of the most detailed Western descriptions of judicial seppuku, noting not only the physical aspects of the ritual, but also the extraordinary dignity and composure of the condemned man. In his account, Freeman Mitford wrote, "The operation of disemboweling, which I had expected would be shocking, was so quickly done that I hardly knew it was over. What I saw was a noble and dignified ceremony." His words reflect the profound impact that witnessing seppuku had on Western observers, challenging their preconceptions about what they had dismissed as mere barbaric suicide. The Meiji Restoration of 1868 officially abolished the samurai class, and with it, the legal status of seppuku. However, the spirit of this ancient practice continued to influence Japanese society in ways that reverberate even today. The most dramatic example came in 1970, when the famous author Yukio Mishima committed seppuku after a failed coup attempt. His death, which followed all the traditional protocols, shocked modern Japan and forced a national conversation about the relationship between traditional values and modern society. But the influence of seppuku extends far beyond such dramatic examples. Its principles, the emphasis on personal responsibility, the readiness to face consequences, and the importance of maintaining dignity even in death, continue to shape Japanese corporate and social culture. When modern Japanese executives resign to take responsibility for company failures, bowing deeply before the cameras, they are performing a symbolic version of what their samurai ancestors did more literally. During the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster, the site superintendent, Masao Yoshida, chose to disobey corporate orders and continued cooling operations using seawater. He was prepared to take full responsibility for his actions, knowing they could end his career. This modern example of choosing principle over self-preservation echoes the samurai tradition of moral courage. In Japanese popular culture, the influence of seppuku can be seen in countless films, novels, and anime series. These modern interpretations often focus more on the symbolic aspects of the ritual rather than its physical reality. The core themes, sacrifice for principle, the beauty of tragic nobility, and the relationship between life, death, and honor continue to resonate with audiences worldwide. As we reflect on this ancient practice, it's essential to understand that seppuku was never about glorifying death or promoting suicide. Instead, it represented a complex philosophical and cultural system that placed supreme value on personal honor, responsibility, and the courage to face consequences. These values continue to influence Japanese society in subtle but significant ways. In our modern world, where responsibility is often evaded and consequences are frequently dodged, the samurai's unflinching willingness to face the ultimate consequence of their actions offers a powerful lesson. While we may no longer practice ritual suicide, the principles that underpinned it, personal responsibility, moral courage, and the importance of maintaining dignity in the face of adversity, remain as relevant as ever. The story of seppuku is more than just a historical curiosity. It's a window into a different way of thinking about honor, responsibility, and the relationship between life and death. In an age where these concepts often seem increasingly fluid, the samurai's stark moral clarity continues to fascinate and challenge us. Thank you for watching this exploration of one of Japan's most misunderstood cultural practices. If you found this video interesting, please subscribe to our channel for more in-depth looks at Japanese history and culture. Don't forget to like this video and share it with others who might be interested in learning about Japan's fascinating past. See you in our next historical journey through Japan's rich cultural heritage.